to the January 13th meeting of the Newmarket Budget Committee. I will call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A couple of quick announcements. Patricia Denmark, who is our recorder, reached out to me earlier today to say that she wasn't going to be able to make it to our meeting. In that same correspondence, she let me know that the minutes from January 6th are not available at this point. So we won't have that as part of our agenda. This is the last meeting of the Budget Committee here in Town Hall, and that would mean that the approval for those minutes will move out to the next meeting of the Budget Committee, which will happen after the deliberative session and after the March vote, so sometime in April, and it'll be the first piece of business that that Budget Committee does. There will be, the new members will just abstain from those since they weren't participating. They'll still be able to satisfy the quorum requirements of those meeting minutes. Thanks, welcome to everybody who's in the audience tonight. I really appreciate you coming out. I can't remember exactly what year it was that I was on the Budget Committee, but I think it was this meeting where we had one person who was in the audience for us for public comment. And we welcomed the person to the meeting and asked them if they would like to make any comment. They grabbed their piece of paper, confidently stood up and strided across the room to the microphone and leaned in and said, "I was looking for the Conservation Commission." So I appreciate everybody that's here tonight.
This is not the Conservation Committee, by the way, if you're looking for that.
And I want to thank all the members of the Budget Committee. I'm going to take a minute here and sort of, say good evening to everybody. This is will probably be my last meeting with the Budget Committee. I'm at the end of my second term here, and I'm not planning on rerunning. And I just want to say that I think this series of meetings that we have done this year have gone really well. I want to thank you for the service and for providing a forum where we can talk about important issues, in an environment with respectful conflict. I think that's really great. I ask the members tonight and anybody in the meeting to help us keep that streak going as we talk about things with the budget. In light of that, I wanted just to share a couple of expectations for the meeting and tonight's public comment. First, I think it's important to point out that this is a chance for the public to come forward and make comment on the FY21 budget. This is not intended to be a question and answer. So if you could help me prepare for this by, as you come up to the microphone, please phrase your comments in terms of your support for or against the bottom line amounts. I say bottom line amount because it's important to understand that the mandate of the Budget Committee is to recommend or not recommend only the bottom line numbers. We do not have the authorization to, we don't have the authorization over line item amounts. So we're not going to be engaging in discussion of the various options for how we can reduce or how we can increase the budget for FY21. I also just want to make mention of the fact that I don't expect to hear much from Newmarket Superintendent Dr. Susan Gibbons tonight. She's here in the audience as an interested and informed party, but this is the Budget Committee's meeting, and our business will mainly take place within discussion amongst ourselves. With that said, and assuming that the folks in the audience are not here for the Conservation Commission meeting, I will open public comment at about 7:05. Now do you get time to? Sure, please. My eyes are bad,
Can they say their name and address?
John Walden, 23 Madison Lane. Am I allowed to voice my concerns about the articles too, or just the?
You can voice your concern about the.
So, what I'm concerned about in the overall budget is that there's too much overhead, and that from what I'm reading, there's a lot of discretionary spending available for what is a large increase over last year. So I would say that I would be against the current budget. Also, the Articles 5, 6, 7, and 8, I'm not sure why can't use that money to offset the increases in the budget. I know that there are other uses that the superintendent and the school committee wants to use the money for, but I don't know if that's a possibility to use those if they're defeated, the article. There's a possibility to use those to offset some of the increase in the budget. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Cliff Chase from 52 Elm Street. Some of you may recognize me. I served on the board for the school board for 9 years. A few terms back, I came here tonight in support of the warrant in its entirety, and particularly the budget as it's presented. I think it's very important to have someone in the role of assistant superintendent. We've had, in my earlier tenure, the person in that role was titled the curriculum coordinator. That role was important for a lot of things, continuity. The light indicating it's on is very on. Anyway, as I was saying, the curriculum coordinator is one of the roles of the assistant superintendent, as I understand it currently. It's important to have integration that transcends individual grade levels and through different teacher classroom settings, so that we've got continuity of programs. So when the fourth graders go to the fifth grade, they're all coming in with the same piece. In a district where we've seen a lot of turnover, I think it's particularly important to have someone in a role that can make sure that there's good mentoring programs in place for those new folks that are in the building. With that, I think that's all I've got to share tonight, and I appreciate all of your time. It's not easy coming to these nights of meetings in the cold and the challenges of the school board that's had of late. Thank you all for volunteering. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tony Weinstein, 275 Ashland Road, and I wanted to make mention of a few things. Well, first of all, I recognize how much time goes into preparing a budget, and from all parties, the school board, and certainly all of the administrators that are employed at the SAU. And in my time, I've seen, I'm not sure how many superintendents, and how many budgets, and they all sort of look a little bit different. And one of the things that I was struck by with this particular budget was how much background was provided and how much clear thought went into the budget process overall. And so the focus on the students' education is really at the forefront of every decision that's been made. And so I just wanted to voice my appreciation of that, because I think that's that's the role of the school board, and that's why we're here. So I'm looking at you, Elizabeth, so thank you for all the work that you've done as in your role on the school board. And so I just wanted to voice my support for the budget overall.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I hear footsteps outside the door or not, so we'll give another minute just to make sure that somebody doesn't show up and wants to speak before we close. All right. Thank you for coming out and making comments. Seeing that there are no other people approaching the microphone, I'm going to close public comment at 7:10 this evening. So thanks everybody. The next part of tonight's meeting is a review of the warrant articles and a we'll be working through a series of motions to recommend or not recommend the various warrant articles and/or changing language as we want. And again, bringing those changes to vote as possible. I think what makes sense for us to do is to take them one at a time, 1 through 9. I'll read them into the record and then look for a recommendation to accept as is. And if anybody feels like they want to make changes at that point, that's when we'll get into it. So,
Mickey, can I just clear, so we can't change language, we can only change
Excuse me.
dollar amounts, correct?
correct.
Okay,
Apologies
thank
for
you.
that.
And Mickey, the other question, so I think with the public comment that was made, we can't change language, or can't change purpose of the warrant articles. We also can or cannot submit new warrant articles at this point. It's,
The Budget Committee can't submit new warrant articles at this point. Looking forward to the deliberative session. Members of the Budget Committee can act as members of the public. In order to do that, you would want to step around the table into the podium itself and announce yourself and make a member, or make your announcement as a member of the public. So, yeah, no, nothing changes here tonight, outside of budget amounts, sorry, dollar amounts. I'm going to just read in Article 1 so we have it. It's not something we're going to be voting on, but just for continuity's sake. Article 1 reads, election of officers voting by official ballot, March 10, 2020, to choose the following school district officers: 1 moderator for a 1-year term, 1 school district clerk for a 1-year term, 1 school district treasurer for a 1-year term, 1 school board member for a 3-year term, and 1 school board member for a 1-year term. There is no reason for us to recommend or not. Article 2 reads, shall the Newmarket School District vote to raise and appropriate an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget proposed with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session. For this purpose, set forth therein, totaling $23,176,613. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $22,605,705, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Newmarket School District, or by law, or by governing body, or the governing body may hold 1 special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:30, 10 and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority ballot vote required. The school board recommends this appropriation 5-0. The Budget Committee recommends this appropriation, and at this point, those are open. That is where we'll start the meeting tonight. Let me know what folks want to do. Do we want to?
Do you want to read, do you want to read into it the notes related to Article 2?
Excuse me. There's a second here. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
We get along together. So note, warrant Article 2, parentheses, operating budget, close parens, does not include appropriations in any other warrant article. The total operating budget will be offset by estimated federal grant revenues of $500,000 and an estimated $380,000 in local, state, and federal child nutrition revenue, leaving a net budget of $22,296,613. The amount of $880,000 will not be raised by taxes. If passed, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of $1.57 over the previous year's school tax rate of $17.59, which will result in a new estimated tax rate of $19.16. If defeated, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of 99 cents over the previous year's school tax rate of $17.59, which will result in a new estimated tax rate of $18.58. Thanks, Joe, for making sure that last part got in there. I'm going to flip back to page 1 here and ask if, what's the right language? If we feel like we want to recommend the Article 2, the warrant item Article 2 as written, or make amendments to it.
We just want to have general comment on it first, or?
I think we should maybe make a motion to either accept or amend.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the budget, this article.
All right, do we have a second?
He's got to say how he wants to amend it.
No, I
before
don't
we
know how I want
decide.
to amend it. Okay, I'd like to amend it to raise tax of $23,022,568. That's 23,022,568.
Do we have a second?
That's it, leave me out to dry, guys.
Roger did, and I can second, he doesn't want
I'm sorry.
to. He had already.
You did,
done it.
I'm sorry, Roger, I didn't hear you. Roger,
I'll
can you
third
say?
it.
All right, let's open up for discussion. Joe, I'll start with you. Why that amount?
There's been a lot going around. I find it difficult to support the position of an assistant superintendent. I really don't think that an assistant superintendent is really, at this point, is going to have a significant impact on the turnover. That's one of the main reasons for the requesting the assistant superintendent. And the amount of 23,022 is the amount being requested minus the 154,000. Now, it's up to the school committee whether they want to go ahead and fund that, take the money out of somewhere else. But that
The
is,
superintendent's been part of our budget since, assistant since 2005. It was under a name, different name, curriculum coordinator, 2005. 2 years ago, we had a superintendent who took that out for her own reasons, and 2 teachers. Since that time, our test scores have gone down. Since that time, our school has literally come to a standstill. When we say that role that assistant superintendent would play in our district, it would improve our education levels. And I don't know, we've got the description, we've given it to you, we've told you what we want from it. I think it would be a huge mistake not to do that, and I'd love to hear your reasons besides what you think. No disrespect.
again, this is my personal opinion,
Right.
I mean, that I don't think that an assistant superintendent at this point is going to make a significant difference in turnover rate.
All these
And
people say everything's falling apart in the school. That's not just one person making that school fall apart.
I want to go on record saying that Dr. Givens is not the one that should be taking the bullet. The school committee is the one that ought to be taking the bullet on all the stuff that's been going on. They're the ones that provide oversight for Dr. Givens. Okay, that's a completely different discussion of what we're supposed to be talking about tonight. But again, if anybody takes the bullet, it should be the school committee.
I also,
Volunteers.
Hold on, let's just make sure that we recognize folks so we don't. Respectful conflict is the name of the game tonight. We've done pretty well so far. Gary, I'll let you.
it's on the same topic. Last year, the superintendent made, during his presentation, comments that the money and the responsibilities that were being, or the responsibility of the superintendent were being taken up by the assistant principal and teacher leaders. So there's funding that has already been increased and gone to that. So now we're saying we need more in addition to that funding.
I hear that. I hear what you're saying. I think that that's something we have to look at. Obviously, it didn't work the way we thought. When we had that discussion last year, I remember saying to Mrs. Nadeau, I don't see how this is going to help us if we don't have a curriculum person helping. And I was told that those assistant principals would take on that role. I think that they've just taken on the role of helping to discipline at this point. Obviously, we're gonna have to look at those stipends that we gave those people, we have to look at those positions. But I hear what you're saying, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, just from a budget standpoint, you're saying you need to look at them.
Yeah.
It seems like that should have been done
Well, I
before
can't say
tonight.
we're gonna let those people go, because
Well, no, obviously you wouldn't care for the teachers, because there's 20 teacher leaders that are however many in there. No, clearly we.
teacher leaders are,
they should
that's a
not.
stipend, that was like $1,000 a piece. Teacher leaders are not abnormal in the school, because you have a math department, you have an English department. And what they're doing is coming together and saying, this is what we used on this test, because there's levels, there's academic.
I'm just going by what the previous superintendent said,
Right.
and then there's also teacher mentors, which I assume is
teacher mentors for the new teachers that come in, so that you want to make sure that they're following the curriculum, if they have any issues within the school, how to navigate through the school. So that's a mentor. That stipend is very small.
I could be wrong, but I thought Superintendent Gibbons said that the mentors were more towards teachers who are already there, kind of retaining them, mentoring them,
And
than new
mentoring the new ones
teachers.
too, and mentoring the old ones, absolutely. But we have mostly new ones, so
But that's why we want an assistant superintendent, is to mentor the new ones.
to mentor and to help. I mean, you have people in the building. No, it's good.
You know, you get my, work my time from.
No, I know, we should offer support to the teacher. If that's what you're saying, I guess.
So, I'm in a household of someone who works at a school, so trust me, that's not what I'm saying. I wouldn't be able to sleep inside tonight, that's what I'm saying.
Thanks, everybody. I want to make sure that all comments get a chance. Christian?
I know this puts you right on the spot, so let's say that this passes and the budget goes down by $154,000. What, would the school board take funds elsewhere to fund that assistant superintendent position?
I don't imagine that we're going to take it from the kids, from the education at this point, so we just keep trucking.
But that position would still happen. You think that's a
I
necessity?
guess that would be a discussion we'd have to have as a board, because that's, a big chunk of money, and you don't want to take that from within the school system. We would have to see.
But by reducing it, there's no conditions, right, on how that money
Yeah.
is impacted. It clearly is a bottom line number that we're debating. So if the decision was that we wanted to use that, it would be
As a
used,
decision.
and it would be used for other places. We've talked about this, I think, with the town budgets. If we voted, for whatever reason, is why the budget committee is in the enviable or unenviable position of only looking at the bottom line and not the line item amounts. Okay, I think there are probably other comments. I don't want to shut down commentary too early, but I also want to make sure that, Roger, do you have a question?
I have two questions on the wording on the warrant article as written. And so.
So I think we have a motion before that we want to close out.
We'll take up that as a separate amendment.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, let's take it to vote. We have sorry, Dan.
Sorry, before we go to a vote, I, respectfully disagree with some of the premise of the motion. I do think we're suffering a lot. I've heard a comment from a member of the public over the past few days that the assistant superintendent is something that's being invented in the course of this budget process. Just for clarification, I wanted to point out that isn't true. We had a superintendent who's now in the administration of the Exeter School District as recently as a couple of years ago, and that member of the public being a former member of this committee who really should have known better than to say that in public. I personally associate a lot of the difficulties we've seen at the high school in particular over the past couple of years with not having that position in place to provide really two kinds of oversight. The first one being more continuity of curriculum, as we've had a very substantial amount of turnover in that building among our teachers, but also a higher level of oversight. The thing that will not stop sticking in my brain from the working sessions that we've had is the percentage of our students who are not on track to get an accredited diploma when they finish. And I've tried in a lot of diplomatic and unfortunately maybe less than diplomatic ways to ask people, whose responsibility is that? Who really should be watching to make sure that as the kids progress from grade to grade to grade to grade, that they're on track to get the credits that they need to get the diploma that we want our students to have when they finish? And it's a complicated question. A lot of responsibility resides within the building, but There's also feels like there's a level of oversight from outside the building that is missing in this equation, because, you know, you have a failure of this magnitude, and it's tempting to point fingers at one person and say, well, if this person had done their job better, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. But that's false, in my opinion. You know, the school district had to fail at a lot of different levels for us to get to this point. We never should have been in a position where one person's inattention to this detail resulted in us being where we are now. And I think that second level oversight of the building administrators has been missing pretty badly, really, for the past, you know, for the last couple of years of the prior superintendent's tenure. There was so much focus on the building projects and making sure, and total merit to that. We had to bring these projects in on budget. We could not let this turn into a fiasco. So I completely understand how the administration got lost in following that. But, you know, at the same time, we really feels like we took our eye off the ball on making sure that the kids were progressing through this at the rate that they should be. And that's something that we've got to get back. That's my point of view on where the value of the assistant superintendent really lies. Thank you.
If I could just respond to that, and I could be wrong, but it seemed like from my reading it, that current year seniors are the ones who are at risk. This isn't a problem of seniors every single year, or the last several years, not getting enough credits to graduate.
No, I agree, but we don't even have statistics on where the juniors and sophomores stand at this point, do we?
Last year, I remember at the end of our school year meeting last year, Meredith and Nadu said that we had 100% graduation rate, which you asked your wife, that's impossible. It's so.
She doesn't work at this school.
No, in any school district, it's almost impossible to reach. That's an amazing number, and I just remember going, we've never had that. How could we possibly have that? That's amazing. And then I found out about the certificate of completion, and that's how we have 100% graduation. So how many of the kids last year, I don't know, had that certificate?
From 2018, according to the New Hampshire Department of Education, we had a 96% graduation rate. Some of those may be certificates, I don't know. I know it's hard for kids to necessarily balance how many credits they need with what a college may require. So there's a certain lack of, I think, clarity from what we require, or from what we require and what a college may require. So it's not like a direct relationship that every college expects a person to have X, Y, and Z.
Are you saying, because we expect more from our students in Newmarket,
Yep.
we do challenge our students?
No, I'm not saying that at all, I'm just
No, we
saying
do.
different.
We do.
Which is great, I'm just saying different colleges have different entrance requirements. So,
I guess, as a parent, I want the best for my kids.
I
and,
totally agree.
So them having a certificate of completion would kind of me, but it's not made for that either, Gary. It's made for those kids that, say, moved district, maybe they had parents that just constantly moved.
And I'm not suggesting that that's what we should aim for, that's what.
Right. But
we
that
should
seems to be
have done.
25%, that's out of a class of 63.
For this 1 year with new guidance counselors, and there may be something obviously was mismanaged, I don't disagree with that.
Well, Susan just came on 5 months ago, so this was a 3-year term. Meredith, I mean, you guys are new, and you haven't seen, you think this year's bad? It's been like this for 7. And we struggled a lot with Meredith, getting any answers for our budget, trying to understand what was happening. I'm exhausted in case you didn't notice. It's been a long week. So let me try to clear my thoughts. We struggled a lot with Meredith, getting answers out of her for our budget. Last year's budget, anybody remembers it, this budget committee had a hard time. The year before we had a hard time. We kept taking away from the kids, kept removing teachers, removing administration. We are now seeing So as a school board, we're saying to you, the best, our kids were getting the best out of this education when we had this in place. We didn't have the turnover that we have right now. We don't have a 25% certificate of completion. And that, I think that only came in 2 years ago, if I remember correctly. But anyways, we come to you as a school board and we say, this is what we think we need to continue to get the best education for this community.
But if you look at the certified staff turnover for the last 7 years, the averages haven't changed a whole heck of a lot. So you're saying that, but now you're also saying,
No, I'm saying I saw 36 people walk out the door last year. I watched every meeting. I had resignations coming in. I've never had something like that. I've never, in the 7 years I've been here,
for what-
I've never seen that.
For the last calendar year?
This last year, as of June, we had 36 people walk out the door.
So from July, so for fiscal year, so July 1 to December, or till now?
Well, they don't usually, they wait till their contract runs out, so June, but you usually start getting your resignations around April, because that's the hiring cycle. So
But
they,
aren't those in the previous, counted as the previous fiscal year then?
so this April, I will probably start getting resignations. So
And
they,
so those people would be counted towards this fiscal year.
this fiscal year, okay,
So the people who resigned in April last year should be the previous fiscal year.
okay. All right,
I'm just trying to be
36
clear.
people walked
We
out the
keep
door.
talking about
I'm
these numbers, and I
exhausted.
just want to be very clear about what they are. I appreciate your frustration.
No, you don't, but that's okay.
I think maybe, let me step in here. I feel like this is a healthy conversation. I'm just not sure this is the right forum for the conversation. I want to get back to sort of what our mandate is, which is to review the bottom line numbers. I think this is far enough into a discussion of why we may want to amend the bottom line number on the budget. So I'm going to pull us back in. I'm going to look for us to do a roll call vote. And just to remind folks, we have a motion before the committee to reduce the bottom line number to $23,022,568 from the original $23,176,613. A yes vote will approve the change in bottom line, a no vote will reject the bottom line. And Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you just because that seems to be.
Can we request an amendment to the proposal? My concern is that if we go through this and it doesn't get approved, then we have to do another motion. If we have to see some small additions to it, as opposed to just amending the proposal.
Dan, I will,
I mean, it's going to be cleaner, I think, if we just vote yes or no, and then if you want to propose another amendment, then you're completely within your, my concern is if we start having friendly amendments to amendments, that
No, I get
pretty
that.
soon it gets a little confusing.
I get that.
okay, so, Elizabeth, how do you vote for the amendment? Christian?
Yes.
Robert?
I vote no.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
I'm a no vote.
No?
No?
Yes.
No.
No.
The amendment does not pass 7-4. At this time, I will open up a chance for us to make a second amendment to the warrant article number 2.
I'd like to, well, I have a concern with the warrant article, and then I'd also like to make an amendment proposal. My concern, as I addressed with, I think, Mickey and Superintendent Gibbons and the Chair of the school board, is that some of the, large portion of the default numbers exactly match the proposed. And it just seems very unlikely that using the calculation for default budgets, those would be the exact same. So I just want to make sure that that's been expressed and at least recorded. Because it doesn't seem, it's very improbable, to say the least, and that there might be some calculation errors, copy and paste sort of things. So I just just want to make sure that was on the record. And then I'd also like to make I propose that we amend the total number from so Rosemary decreased one of the totals, correct?
Bottom line number, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
We decreased it to $22,981,131.
$22,981,131.
Which would be $195,482 reduction.
Do I have a second?
Leave you out to dry.
I'll second it just so we can vote on it.
Christian, second, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Discussion?
I can certainly bring up my rationale for those numbers if that's.
Yes, could you?
In addition to the superintendent reduction, there are several areas in the budget that have New Hampshire Retirement Services or system increases that are disproportionate to last year's numbers and appear to be a miscalculation based on the assumption that they're certified staff as opposed to non-certified staff. In previous years, we've assumed that those who were non-certified in 1 year are non-certified the next year and used the 11.17%. So for instance, I can give specific examples. I didn't go through all the items I found on page, I limited it to 7, in case 6, in case I was wrong on certain items. One of which, for instance, on page 22, the advisor's salaries aren't going up at all, but the retirement funding is going up by 54%. So that's $1,589. On page 23, the junior high coaches' salaries are going up by 1%, or $117. The New Hampshire retirement funding is going up by 102%, or $1,167. For high school, the coach's salary is going up by 3%, or $1,638. The retirement contributions are going up by $7,580, or 312%. And also on page 24, I was concerned that the other professional services, previous years we've only showed the highest expense in the previous years was $19,800. Last year it was approved for $25,000, and this year it's going up for $27,500. It seems like a significant increase considering we haven't spent out last year's approved amount. Unfortunately, not year-to-date spending. The other items on page 43. Based on the based on the salary for administration salaries, there should be calculated at, I believe, 11.17, and the contribution is $8,453, which would be $3,148 above what it should be, based on the State Department or the New Hampshire state rules. The last one, on page 69. The salary is going up by 7%, and the retirement is going up by 100%, or $1,989 above what I believe it should be. I'm also concerned with the budget because there's a reduction because of the CBA or CBD, term is, with the staff, the retirement rates are going down, which is great. But for some reason, rather than keeping people who had previously opted out of buying the insurance, we moved them into the insurance pool. And I get why we should do that, and I caution for new staff, because we don't know what they're gonna take. But since we know not every single staff member has left, it doesn't, in my mind, make sense compared to what we've previously done. Additionally, for some reason, we didn't do that for special ed, so it seems like there's the decrease in health insurance is less than it should be. I didn't take those numbers into account at all. There's also a $12,000 business administrator proposed increase in salary. That was included, but I also took out the $11,073 increase from last year's approved for the superintendent, which would bring her back to $133,000.
So can I ask if you could just quickly bifurcate the reduction you're proposing in your amendment? How much is the assistant super and how much is everything else combined?
Sure. The assistant super is 154, 436. It's $41,046.
Thank you.
I think I saw it, Christian.
Gary, I think you had brought this up at last meeting. I don't know if we can allow the contract business administrator to maybe answer the insurance question, the retirement, sorry.
I don't know if we have that information available to us, I will take.
Only if it's available.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Can you do us a favor to state your name, your position? Can you state your
Interim
position?
business administrator, contract services for municipal resources. So I did review, some of the questions that were emailed, and I'm sorry it took so, late to respond. But the, retirement is based on all certified staff at 17.8% for, certified staff. It's in your packet. So all teachers, it's, the worksheets are all linked. So all teachers are considered certified, coaches are considered certified. Again, coaches are part of the, contractual agreement. So they would get the, retirement rate of 17.8. That's what the retirement is. We have to budget based on, people who will be providing more services. You're correct that the administrators some administrators are at the 17.8. That is the law. They came up with a law. Business administrators and, student services directors, principals, they are at the higher rate. They're considered educators, so they are the higher rate. I wish we would have had more time to go over it. You were more than welcome to come to the office if it's set an appointment, and we would be able to review how those calculations were done. So, again, all the staff that we know here are linked to that worksheet. And then, there are others that the percentage is included in the retirement, such as, tutors. We may not know who they are. I'm just taking that as an example. So we calculate it based on the higher rate. So there are assumptions that are made, but it's based on who's here currently. So that would, respond to the retirement differential that you have, caught or saw. The other thing is on the health insurance. We budget health insurance based on, just like people that are here, based on current people that are currently employed with the district, that currently have a contract. So, there is a difference between the 1920 budget versus the current, the 1920 budget versus the 2021 budget that we're proposing. The teachers did have an agreement that was approved with at the voters in the last meeting. So the teachers do get an increase automatically, and they voted to accept the consumer-driven plan, which is with the deductible things included, and the rate increase for the consumer-driven plan was 0. So you wouldn't have seen that much of an increase. So there's going to be fluctuation from one year to the other in the health insurance plans, as you so noticed. And then the individuals that are still in the green plan, that percentage increased by 1.8. So the difference in the health insurance premiums they receive for the cost is the change of personnel, where they currently are, the change in plans, so non-affiliated employees, that people who are not associated with union, last year also went to the consumer-driven plan, so that rate had a 0 increase, so it stayed flat the prior year. So that's why you would see the net effect would probably be lower because the rate increase was basically neutral. And I have to honestly say that I haven't been with the district very long. And the board, as well as superintendent, agree that we work very hard to present an appropriate budget in a short period of time. And we did our due diligence to make sure that things were accurate, and we're human, we make mistakes. So I know I looked, and I think my previous successor looked at how the numbers for 20, we arrived at the year 19, 20. Search high and low. I couldn't make out. One of your questions was how come the salary increase was so high. One of the lines was went from 54,000 to 56,000.
Yeah, I think you misunderstood that question. I was just showing you the difference.
But, and then, so if you calculate, 17.8% is retirement on $56,000. That's where you get your $10,000. I don't know how last year this was. I can't answer that question, I'm sorry.
No, of course, I mean, if you got the information. I was just surprised because the previous numbers seemed off of the 11.17%.
I think we all were. You're not the only one who's surprised. We were trying to figure out how there was such a discrepancy in the calculation, because the rates did not change. The retirement rates is biannual, so the rate for the current year is the same for next year. It's the following year that it's going to change. So yes, we had the same questions, but we believe that we presented the most accurate budget that we possibly can in the period of time, and we did have other people look at it, but I believe as a business administrator, we usually start budgeting back in the summertime, September. So, short period of time. We feel that we did a due diligence in what we presented to the community.
And I'm certainly not accusing you of
I'm
that,
not-
and I
I'm not
appreciate
saying
all
you
your
are.
hard work. I know it's been
I'm not
short,
saying you are.
frustrating.
I just wanted you to understand, and I hope I was able to answer your question.
Absolutely, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Gary, for your questions, and I know in your conversations you've spent countless hours, I think, maybe double the amount of hours total in these meetings with these investigations. Before we break off, before we cut you guys like a couple of school kids chatting off on the side here, I want to pull us back in. I don't know if there's further discussion to have about the motion before the committee. If there isn't, I'm going to move to.
Based on the clarification that I made, withdraw my motion, if that's acceptable.
That is acceptable. Motion withdrawn. Yes, Roger, you had a couple of
Yeah.
comments.
I'd like to amend the article as written to remove the question mark following the number in line 4, and to remove the question mark in the last line of Article 2, paragraph. I think that they are confusing, and I wouldn't want to have a question mark around the number that's being approved.
So, Dan, you may be going there as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is boilerplate wording, because if you read the whole warrant article, it is phrased in the form of a question to the voter. Shall the Newmarket School District vote to raise and appropriate? So,
Okay, is the question mark in the second part also a question mark?
Should this?
yeah, should this article be defeated?
And I don't think the question mark is legitimate there. It's a statement.
You may be correct. I don't think it's within our purview, though, to change the wording. The school board can certainly agree to make that change in what goes on the final warrant if it's genuinely in error. These things are always really weird, the way that they're worded, because the idea is that the voter is being asked to say yes or no to something, and I agree with you, that second one reads a bit bizarrely, but also, yeah, without accusing anyone of anything, we tend to crib these from one year to the next and just change the numbers. So if it's wrong on this year's budget, I'd bet you $1 that it was wrong on last year's warrant and the year before that, and, in time immemorial.
My amendment still stands to change that. If we can't change the wording,
I don't believe that is what we are allowed to do in this meeting. I
Okay.
believe, Roger, that would be
okay,
something
we
that we
can
could
change
bring
the
forward
numbers
to
only.
the,
Can I ask?
I think though it's an important point, and if a member of the public or if yourself wanted to make this at the deliberative session, if it doesn't get changed, that would be, I think, a place where we can change the wording of the warrant article to clarify whether or not this should be, the punctuation should be changed.
I'm having trouble with approving the warrant article with respect to the wording and the number furnished for the default budget. Because, as Gary has mentioned, there are some places where it looks like the default budget isn't really the default budget in terms of the legal technicality of how it's described. The fiscal services is completely covered in the default budget, and yet those monies came out of other line items, and we can't tell where they came out of the other line items, so how can the default budget be established without knowing where those came from? So
I don't know that is a
I
number that
will,
we
I
are
will
able
withdraw
to.
my amendment, but
Yeah, again, I hear you. Legally, I'm not sure we can change the default budget. I don't know what ground we're standing on, that's all
I
I'm
guess
saying.
my concern is that we are recommending or not recommending to, by our vote, to the town to adopt what is written, and if what is written is incorrect, then I have trouble voting for it. And it hasn't been established to me that is in fact, at least to my satisfaction, that it is correct. So I will
Can I
just
ask a
leave it at
question?
that.
So Mickey, if it was an error and it changed, we would have a new public hearing on that change, is that correct?
If it changed by a significant amount, we could come back with a public hearing. I think the timing is not necessarily in our favor, with Monday, the 20th being Martin Luther King Day, and the deliberative session being the 1st of February. So, Roger, I hear you. I think it is a valid point. If you end up voting to not recommend the budget for that reason, that I think is well within your view to do that. And if information comes to light later on, I would recommend, or listen to what Marie said earlier, that these numbers were produced in good faith and with the information available at the time. If you approach the podium and change that, then we will make adjustments to it. I have no idea what's going to happen next.
I was gonna speak, I wasn't gonna change the number.
Okay.
Because
That is okay. I was just heightening the drama there for a moment.
I'm not changing numbers, at this point, the numbers is what you see, we're not manipulating any more numbers. We don't wanna confuse people, anymore. But like I said, I think we really scrubbed this and we looked at, everything we possibly could. And I'm not trying to, deceive the committee or the community, that's not the purpose of this, is to make sure that everybody understands, because we all have to feel comfortable with this vote. So I did send out an email late just today, so I apologize. So how did we arrive to the full budget? Well, how we arrived to the full budget, did we start off with the current budget that we're in? Start off with those numbers. And then you take out, you decrease that budget by any one-time expenditures, purchases, leases, projects that have occurred. And I haven't studied enough, so I can give you examples, and I apologize for that. So if there was a project that was incorporated in the current year's budget, that was removed. Then you add any contractual agreements, and the contractual agreement is one of the examples you gave is what the superintendent's budget will be, our budget for the current year. But we have to budget what actually is. So there is a difference, you're correct. But the difference is what the current contract states, and that's what's being budgeted. Can't go back if we currently have what we have. And then any increases that we know that we have agreements with vendors or utility costs. We know that utilities, sometimes districts have made agreements with a broker to lock in rates, or that they know a certain percentage will go up on an annual basis. Or vendors, say to vendors who have a maintenance agreement, I don't know, usually it's controlled technologies, I don't know if the school district uses controlled technologies, but they incorporate when they provide services to take care of the filters and the HVAC system, they increase their rates also on an annual basis. So that's incorporated in the default budget, because we know those are going to be costs. We also increase or decrease based on student enrollment. So if we're going to have additional students, we may have to buy more books. You may have to buy more supplies. And you may have to do testing. And in food service, you're going to have to purchase more food for students, and there's cost for that. And then the other one that we would see an increase would be special education based on IEPs, necessary services that the school district needs to provide. What's not included in the default budget is any proposed increases, which includes salary and related benefits, like retirement, that was proposed in the operating budget. The operating budget, based on, because we have a municipal budget committee, the operating budget is the budget committee's budget. The default budget is the school district's budget. So the school district develops the budget based on the needs of school. And sometimes the budget, sometimes the default budget is much higher than the budget committee budget. And sometimes it's lower, as in this case. So I pull up, so that's just a short version of the default budget, what constitutes a default budget. So if I look at what the operating budget is, budget committee's budget, it's the gross, which includes the food service and grants, because we have to gross up the, that's what shows up on the warrant. So it starts off with the $22,296,613, and the projected grant expenditures of $500,000, projected food service cost of $380,000, for a total of $880,000. But those two funds, food service and grants, are supposed to be self-funding. So with grants, if you get approved for a grant, you can't expend the money unless it's been approved, and you get reimbursed how much you spend. So it's in and out scenario. Food service is a different story. Food service, we plan for, it's supposed to be self-funding, but there are times that, and I'm sure this district has realized it, you run into deficit appropriation because of negative balances from students, and the district is liable to pay for that. But we hope that it's a fund neutral fund. So if you add $22,296,613 and the $880,000, that's what comes up to $23,176,613. Now, on the default, the difference between the default and the budget committee's budget is $570,908. So it's $21,725,705 plus the $880,000, which comes out to the $22,605,705. That's how we arrive to it. The difference of $570,908, and I'm serious when I said that we really looked at the budget and tried to really budget appropriately. The difference is the $570,908, a decrease in the default versus the operating budget. It's really the salary and benefits that were the majority of it. Most of it is salary and benefits that's been proposed. So you have, as you spoke about tonight, you have the assistant superintendent. The superintendent is requesting, or the school board is requesting, 2 additional high school teachers. They were also asking for custodians to help with the new space in the facilities for security purposes. Those are just examples. That's what's included in there. So it's the proposed new positions, and there's a percentage in there for, in the operating budget for all non-affiliated except for paraprofessionals. So the teachers have a contract, so that's been incorporated in the operating budget. We can't take that out of there. Paraprofessionals are negotiating, and that's been a separate warrant article. So the paraprofessional salaries are flat. They didn't change. Whatever they're making today is what they're making next year. And then the non-affiliated superintendent requested a percentage increase, but it's not included in the default because that's new money. So the increase, the difference is the $570,000, which is pretty close to the new positions and what was proposed for salary increases. That's really the majority of the difference. Any other questions for President?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie.
Yeah, I mean, if the meeting will indulge one small request that actually has nothing to do with this warrant article, this is for, frankly, both the town and the school board. It would be wonderful in the future if we could get the default budget concurrent with the budget proposal. 3 years running, we've kind of come into the hearing getting the default budget a day or 2 or 3 beforehand. It really complicates matters, so if that's something we could do going forward, I think everyone up here would appreciate it.
Okay. Did you get to?
Thank you.
Great. I'm gonna look around the room and see if anybody wants to make another adjustment to the bottom
Well,
line.
now, can I make a motion? I guess I'd like to make a motion that the Budget Committee approve as is Article number 2 for the sum of $23,176,613.
And I'm gonna change that just to not to approve, but to recommend.
To recommend, okay, that's fine.
Great, so we have a motion before the committee to accept Article 2's bottom line number, $23,167,619. I will do a roll call vote starting on.
I think you have one.
Good discussion first?
This might help. I hope it doesn't complicate. When I looked at warrant Article 2 language from last year, there was no second question mark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll make the we'll have it look at again, and we'll make the necessary language adjustments if that's okay.
Might satiate some concerns.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just so it's in the recording, for Patricia's benefit, the business administrator volunteered to have the board look at that second question mark and remove if appropriate.
Thanks, Dan.
Sure.
Did anyone second that?
I apologize. So, Joe has made a motion. Roger has made the second.
Tell me that number again, I'm sorry, what did you
So the motion before the committee is to recommend Article number 2 as written. So the number would not change.
Oh, I thought you gave the number.
The number I read was 23,167.
23 million.
23 million.
23,167,613.
Thank you.
Sorry, $23,176,613. Article 2 as written is what is before the committee.
6 years is the toughest, Mickey.
6 years, the last meeting of the 6th year is the toughest. I want everybody to know that. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with my left. A yes vote will recommend the warrant article number 2 as written. A no vote will not recommend as written. So, Elizabeth, I will, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Say aye. Yep.
Well, no, we're doing a roll call.
We're doing a roll call vote. So I'm sorry. School Board Representative Elizabeth McKinney, how do you vote? Yes or no?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Christian Matthews?
No.
Rob Ortens?
Yes.
Jeff Rabb?
Yes.
Joe Lamantina?
Yes.
Mickey Burns votes yes. Ken Smith?
Yes.
Roger Caddy?
Yes.
Gary Swanson?
No.
Trevor McDonald?
Yes.
And Zach?
No.
Vermont? No. Warrant article has been recommended, 823. Thanks very much for that discussion and for your patience at the very end there as reading got somehow difficult for me. Moving on, I want to read in article number 3 for the record. Starting, article number 3, shall the Newmarket School District vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Newmarket School Board and the Newmarket Support Staff Association, which calls for the following increase in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year, : estimated increases, year 2020, 2021, $58,143, year 2021, 2022, $48,192, year 2022, 2023, $50,591. Further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $58,143 for the upcoming fiscal year, 2020, 2021 school year, such sum representing an additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits over those of the appropriation at current staffing levels paid in the prior fiscal year. Majority ballot vote required. The school board recommends this appropriation 5-0. The budget committee recommends this appropriation to be voted on yet. The estimated tax impact of this warrant article is 6 cents. Point of order, Dan, I'm not sure that do we have authority over these numbers as mentioned in article number 2, or do we just do an up-down vote on whether or not we recommend article number 2?
I mean, this one is an up-down vote because it's a labor agreement between the board and the support staff association.
Can we just get clarification? I assume, so the prior year, so what they're talking about for year, this current year getting $58,543 in addition to,
Right, yeah, in addition to what's in the operating budget in Article 2, it would be another $58,143.
Thank you.
Sure.
So it's not indicated here, but we just want to make it understood that, this agreement includes, this is the net effect of $58,143 is the net effect, because the paraprofessional also agreed to go to the yellow plan. So because they're going to the yellow plan, it saves the district additional money, and that's reflected in the $58,143. Thank you.
Thank you. I will accept a motion to accept Article 3, I will accept a motion to recommend Article 3 as written.
So
Gary moved and Roger Caddy second. Discussion? Yes, Christian.
Just had a question. is the shift in numbers, I guess I'm just I don't really understand why there's a shift in numbers. And is this cost of living and merit and benefits? It just, with inflation, you'd think it would go up each year, but it's down the next 2 years afterwards. And is this adjusted for pools? Like, it just seems like something's off maybe, or?
I will not, I will defer to either Dr. Gibbons or Marie.
Thank you very much for your support.
Sorry, you just play by the rules. Can you state your name and position?
Dr. Sue Gibbons, Superintendent of Schools. The reason why the numbers vary is because what we negotiated varied from year to year. So the amounts weren't the same and the benefits weren't the same in each year. So it wasn't, a lot this year and then more next year and even more the following year. So that's the reason why the numbers look that way. It's because of what we actually negotiated in each year was different.
Thank you. If I may, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we also saw a similar yearly shift when we talked about the police contracts a few years ago, so it's not necessarily out of the ordinary.
Thank you, Zach.
And just one clarifying question, and I ask this every year and then forget the answer by the year after. These are cumulative. So for the second year, the 48,192 is in addition to the 58,143 from the first year?
Right. So
Okay.
that's the amount of new money in each year.
Right.
But we're only talking about appropriating the first year.
Right.
Next year's budget, even though the contract is in place, next year's budget will be its own budget committee with its own time.
Yeah, next year this gets subsumed into the operating budget.
Great.
For the default budget.
Okay. I feel like we should have a microphone over in that corner. Save you guys some steps. All right, we have a motion before the committee to accept Article 3 as written. I'll do a roll call vote. Again, a yes vote will recommend the Article 3. A no vote will not recommend the Article 3. Elizabeth McKinney, how do you vote?
Yes.
Krista Matthews?
Yes.
Rob Hortons?
Yes.
Jeff Rabb?
Yes.
Joe Lemtina?
Yes.
Vicki Burns is a yes. Dan Smith?
Yes.
Sorry, who's over there? Roger Caddy?
Yes.
Gary Swanson?
Yes.
Trevor McDonald?
Yes.
Zach Dumont?
Yes.
Article 3 passes unanimously, 11-0. Great, I will read in Article number 4 for the record. Article number 4 reads, shall the Newmarket School District, if Article 3 is defeated, authorize the school board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 3 cost only, majority vote required. The school board recommends this appropriation 5-0. The committee recommends this appropriation to be voted on. Can I have a?
Do we really
Wait, do we vote on this?
There's no
Isn't
appropriation here.
We did check this earlier with the town attorney. They said that we can vote on this to record support for the fact that if Article 3 goes down, that there's no reason why we shouldn't host an additional meeting to do this. We don't have to. I think we can record. I don't see any reason why we should not record our voices on what this is. So I will take a motion to accept Article 4 as written.
Or so moved.
Second.
Recommend.
So I think I heard, sorry, recommend is the language. Zach Dumont was the motion, and I think I heard Roger as the second.
Yeah.
Make a quick note. Okay, any discussion on the language of Article 4?
Sorry, I was
Okay.
going to ask another question.
Sure.
So if Article 3 doesn't pass, what costs would the school district be addressing at this special meeting? Would it be having to go back to the paraprofessionals and say, hey, you don't get a contract and have to work something out, or what costs are being addressed?
I'll defer to Marie. Yeah, it goes much longer.
Thank you for allowing us to speak. So, yes, it means that it gives the bargaining unit as well as administration to go back to, and based on the vote, to determine if they want to have another meeting, so they don't have to wait a whole other year to do some sort of adjustment to what was proposed. And, or if it doesn't pass, then they have to wait another year. But if Article 3 is defeated, it usually means the negotiation goes back to the table to see if they could resolve the differences in a short period of time, so they don't have to wait a whole year contract.
In case you care, it says Article 3 costs only because if other things are defeated, you can't lump them in.
Okay.
To the renegotiation.
Any further discussion? All right, then we'll take it to a roll call vote. A yes vote will recommend Article 4, a no vote will not recommend Article 4. Representative McKinney,
Yes.
Representative Matthews,
Yes.
Representative Ortens,
Yes.
Representative Rabb,
Yes.
Representative Lamatina.
Yes.
Nikki Burns is a yes vote. Representative Dan Smith,
Yes.
Representative Roger Caddy,
Yes.
Representative Gary Swanson,
Yes.
Representative Trevor McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Zach Dumont.
Yes.
Warrant article number 4 passes unanimously, 11-0. Thank you, everybody. More reading. Number 5, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate from surplus the sum of $415,531 to be used to improve, renovate, furnish, and equip school buildings, and authorize the use of this amount from the June 30, 2020 fund balance, open parens surplus, close parens, for the purpose, open parens, this amount represents part of the interest earned on temporary investment of bond proceeds that will be transferred to the general fund on June 30, 2020. No amount to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required. The school board recommends this appropriation 5-0. The budget committee recommends this appropriation to be voted on. Okay, can we have a motion to recommend Article 5 as written?
So moved.
Thank you, Dan Smith, and Elizabeth McKinney makes the second. Any discussion?
I'll just say, I don't know, I'd like to see the money returned, but 6 one, half a dozen the other. You either spend the money now or you spend more later. So, that's my comment on that.
Okay. Christian?
So because this money is not going in until June 30, 2020, does that mean that the items that were listed cannot be dealt with until June 30, 2020? This is the ducts, dimming, bleachers, electrical.
Dr. Evans, can you provide some clarity?
Once it's, the money's appropriated by the town meeting, we can't spend it until June 30, but we can go out and get the bidding and all of that rolling. So that by the time we get to the summer, ideally, we can be able to execute over the summer.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All right, let's move to a vote. A yes vote will recommend Article 5 as written. Representative McKinney?
Yes.
Representative Matthews?
Yes.
Representative Ortens?
Yes.
Representative Rabb?
Yes.
Representative Lamatina?
Yes.
Nikki Burns is a yes. Representative Dan Smith?
Yes.
Representative Roger Caddy?
Yes.
Representative Gary Swanson?
Yes.
Representative Trevor McDonald?
Yes.
Representative Zach Dumont?
Yes.
Article number 5 is recommended as written unanimously with a vote of 11-0. Article number 6, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate from surplus the sum of $200,000 to be added to the repair and maintenance of school facilities expendable trust fund previously established and authorized to use this amount from the June 30, 2020 fund balance or surplus for this purpose. This amount represents part of the interest earned on temporary investment of bond proceeds that will be transferred to the general fund on June 30, 2020. No amount to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required. Recommended by, school board recommends this appropriation 5-0. Budget committee recommends this appropriation to be voted on. I will take a motion to recommend Article number 6 as written. That was Gary Swanson. And second by Trevor McDonald. Any discussion? Yes, sir, Rod.
I think with the amount of money that's been put into the schools, both through the bond issue and the Article 5 monies, my question is, maybe this is one place that the school could return this to the taxpayers in the form of a reduction in taxes, which would be about 22 cents or something like that on the tax rate. And for that reason, I think this could be dealt with that way rather than putting it into the school trust fund.
So noted. I don't know, there's a motion to amend here.
You
I-
can't amend it.
Yeah, we can amend it, so recommend, we hear you, and
Yeah.
if you vote no, that'll be why.
Well, you can amend the number.
I don't know that we can amend this number on this warrant article, it's only the bottom line budget number that we have control over. Oh, sorry.
I'm suggesting we vote in opposition to this.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. This is not all bond interest money that we're recommending that the town allow us to appropriate in a certain way. We have one last CD that if we're able to hold off on making some payments and releasing the pension, will amount to $128,000. And that money would then go back to reduce the tax rate at the end of this year. So these three articles here are just to use a portion of the money to replenish some of our trust funds because the money has been spent, but also to ensure that should something occur during the course of the year, that the board has access to resources to do needed repairs, and or if technology fails, that we're able to take immediate action to restore our systems. The buildings have expanded significantly, they're renovated, and there is still, much of the building that is aged, and so we just want to make sure that we have enough resources that should something happen, we'd be able to move forward. Also, on the facility request is $200,000. We're not quite through with the building project, and although we're on budget right now, should something happen between now and the end of the project that requires us to spend more money to address an issue, then the money will come out of this trust fund in order to fund that. And so this would enable us to restore the money that we would take out between now and the end of the building project.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, I gotta say, I agree with Roger. This is the one that I can't get on board with because there's no specific plan tied to this money. We have a project, thank God, that's on budget, that we've done a very good job of managing. I just don't see a rationale being advanced for this other than what if, and 200,000 in the context of a $22 million budget. There are other places that we could get money if something of a very urgent nature happens. I just don't see it.
Roger, Christian.
Do we have a current level of where this trust fund is at right now in dollar value? Yep.
So I have a different kind of question. Article 6 and Article 7 are both the same fund, it looks like. So I wonder if one passes and the other does not, doesn't matter which order, is there a no means no consequence for either or both?
Well, one
I'd say
comes from.
different.
No, I think-
No, they're not.
Yeah, the 6, 7 is
Where
the
they come-
technology.
6 and 8, okay, sorry, yeah, I had my numbers wrong, 6 and 8.
Dan, I'm sorry, Jeff, can you say your question again?
If I have the numbers right this time, Article 6 and Article 8.
Numbers are
both-
tough, right?
What's that?
Numbers are tough,
Yeah,
right?
well, I'm not in my 6th year yet, so it'll be worse next year.
They're coming from two different places. One's coming from the interest, the other is coming from any fund surplus from this year.
No, I understand that, but if one, so let's say Article 8 We're on Article 6 now, but let's say Article 8 is defeated. Would that mean that no amount from that trust could be used for the purpose of the playground? And vice versa, the other way around?
I guess my question would be, is that in Article 8, is earmarked for a specific project, whereas 6 is just placed into the trust fund? You know, which might also change whether or not it would be effective.
I'm not suggesting I have any idea what the answer is, I want to make sure people understand the consequences.
Yeah.
You know, I guess us, but really more the voters when it comes.
So if you're putting money into a trust fund for future use, that's their state vacation. Just like you have your special education trust fund, that's, at some point, the school district will put additional money in there, so if you needed to access it based on student needs, you'd be able to access it. It's there for future use, whereas the other one stipulating the purpose of it, the previous one on the past, and that's specifically being used and put into the operating budget. This one is being put for future use.
I understand that. I guess when we get to Article 8, we can discuss Article 8 more.
Okay.
But if that language is just optional to be included as to the purpose for that one, as opposed to just saying we're going to raise $50,000, then we can talk about that then.
So when the trust funds were established, that's the word that we use, the purpose of. So when you establish the warrant article, this indicates what it can be used for. So.
Understood. The language in 8 is to support the elementary school playground renovation project, which I'm sure was not in the original. That's what I'm getting at is. No, thank you for all your help.
So I do have the balances that is December 31st of the trust fund.
So wait, just so we don't lose thread. Christian asked a question earlier. Would you repeat your question? Just so
I think she was about to
it's
get to it.
context.
It was just, what was the current level of the trust fund, the repair and maintenance of school facilities expendable trust fund?
Well, as of December 31st, it's approximately $287,129. And then the next one, they're going to have to go on the technology one, and currently they're $117,900 in that technology.
Sorry, could you repeat that? No.
Okay, so, superintendent clarified, even though there's $117,900 in the technology trust fund, there's been, allocations to take $13,000 out of that. So you take 117, take away 13,000, get down to 1,000. We haven't won that money yet. So that's why that's the balance. It's earmarked to do so. The process has occurred to take to withdraw that money.
Get your answer. Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
Unless someone else wanted to talk first.
I didn't see the arm, so recognizing Christian Matthews.
So I guess if the voters do not approve these, the money has not been appropriated, and it will then sit there until the next year, or if the school board decides to put a different warrant article on, or a citizen at the deliberative session.
Dr. Gibbons, I will defer to you for what happens to the monies if these warrant articles are defeated by the voters at the deliberative session, or at the polls in March.
So the warrant articles are listed in priority. So if the first one passes and the second one fails, and then the third one passes, it's money that's not being raised. It's money that would normally go back to the taxpayers to reduce taxes. It's interest earned on the bond.
You mentioned it won't sit there, it'll be
Oh, so
returned
it
to the
does get
taxpayer.
appropriated immediately.
But you didn't raise taxes,
Right.
it has been earned.
Right.
So this is a way to save the community money by utilizing money that hasn't been raised by taxes initially, but it will help defray the cost
Right.
of the budget.
I'm sorry, I thought that the money had to be specifically appropriated to be pulled out of the interest, but it doesn't have to be, it just.
But it would show in the form of the surplus. at the end of the year.
At the end of the year, it would be
And then
fund
it-
balance. Would
The
be a
surplus fund, and then it would reduce
Correct.
the
So you-
following year's
so in December-
appropriation.
In June 30th, you would see a fund balance based on this number, $700,000, but you're gonna take 415, then you're gonna take out the 200, and so then instead of the $700,000, you're gonna end up with 150 million. But it's money that that $700,000 has not been raised by taxes, so it's a one-time saving to the community.
Perfect, thank you.
Roger Kenny.
It technically hasn't been raised by taxes, but it's the interest on a bond which is being paid by taxes. So it does affect, I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm following.
I'd say this money is interest that has been accrued on money that was raised by a bond issue. The bond is being paid off by taxes.
Correct, and this is interest on that bond.
It's interest on that bond. And
Right.
so to state that it's not raised by taxes is a little bit squirrely in my mind, because in fact, the bond is going to be paid off by taxes.
It's the appropriation that's not coming from taxation, I think is what the
And it's
intention of the
swirly.
language.
You're absolutely correct. The bond schedule, the community voted to go with the bond, they knew exactly the total amount. And I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, I don't get the total amount. I'm gonna say $40 million. That, interest, principal and interest was gonna amount to $40 million. That, community was aware that we had voted, and that's what they would raise taxes. Now, the district was fortunate enough to take the unused bond money, because we're paying for the project as we go along, to reinvest that money. So you're correct. It would help defray the cost of paying the bond. You're correct.
Thank you.
Let's move this article number 6 to a vote. We have before us a motion to recommend article number 6 as written. We'll take a roll call vote. A yes vote will recommend, a no vote will not recommend. Starting with Representative McKinney,
Yes.
Representative Matthews,
No.
Representative Ortens,
Yes.
Representative Rabb,
No,
Representative Lamatina,
Yes.
Mickey Burns is a yes. Dan Smith,
No.
Roger Caddy,
No?
Gary Swanson,
No.
Trevor McDonald,
Yes.
Zach Dumont.
No.
Warrant article number 6 is not recommended by the Budget Committee by a vote of 5 to 6. Thanks, everybody.
6 to 5.
There were 5 yeses and 6 noes.
Oh, sorry.
So 5 to 6.
Sorry.
It's okay. Article number 7. To see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate from surplus the sum of $50,000 to be added to the Technology Trust Fund previously established and authorized the use of this amount for the from the June 30, 2020 fund balance surplus for this purpose. This amount represents part of the interest earned on a temporary investment of bond proceeds that will be transferred to the general fund on June 30, 2020. No amount to be raised from taxation, majority vote required. The school board recommends this appropriation 5-0. The budget committee recommends this appropriation to be determined. Can I have a motion to recommend article number 7 as written?
I so move.
Second.
Roger moves and Gary seconds. Discussion?
And I have a question. What if there's only $40,000 left in the surplus at the end of the year? If, then nothing gets,
Nothing gets done.
it doesn't go, okay.
I think we got our answer.
Okay, so that's why it's based on priority. So if there's no more fund balance at the end of warrant article 6, it doesn't make a difference what the following warrant article is stating, if it's coming out of the surplus, it will not happen. If there was no more fund balance.
But if there was, say, $40,000 left, then it still would not.
Yes, yes.
that $40,000 would not go to this.
Is
They're
that the
saying
case?
specific amount.
Because
They're not saying up
You're right,
to.
it's not.
The
it
next
doesn't
one
say
says
up to. Yeah, like Article 8 seems to explicitly think of itself as the bottom of the waterfall, but Article 7 does not.
Without resolution to language, I think we move to recommend unless there's no more discussion. Let me double check to make sure. Christian?
Is there, thinking about June, that fiscal year, are there any big technology projects in the pipeline that there's gonna be a need to have more than 115 minus, I think, $13,000 in there? I think the logic that Steve had for us was kind of moving away from trust funds because they're not raising money, but next year seems, maybe it's okay to have it in there, but are there big technology projects?
I know that there is a replacement cycle that the director, our IT director has.
Oh, yeah?
See, there he is. I know that, like all the Wi-Fi was not replaced during this project. You know that in the operating budget, part of that replacement is a core switch at the school.
If something like that were to fail, a core switch or something like that, that we didn't anticipate was going to, then that's what the trust fund is used for.
And we're so reliant on technology now, it's like the utilities, it's like turning on your lights, it's no different. To not be able to address something immediately, by having access to resources is pretty scary from an instructional standpoint. So, support for this would be appreciated because some of these things are very, very expensive. If we need, to access them, it would be devastating not to have enough money to support them. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna move this to a vote.
Could I
Sorry,
just
yeah.
ask a question? I wasn't clear what the current balance is in that trust fund.
117,000.
117.
We're
Okay.
13,000 allocated already, so the balance of 104.
104. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't take your
Thunder stealing all over the place here,
Save a few
everybody.
steps.
Okay, we have a motion before the committee to recommend Article 7 as written. We'll do a roll call vote. Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
Sorry.
Wait a minute.
Well, that's the pinnacle
Maybe
maybe.
kind thing. Yeah, exactly. Levity at Article 7. Elizabeth McKinney.
Yes.
How do you vote? Christian Matthews. How do you
Yes.
vote? Rob Ordens.
Yes.
Jeff Rabb.
Yes.
Joe Lamantina.
Yes.
Nikki Burns is a yes. Dan Smith.
Yes.
Roger Caddy.
Yes.
Jerry Swanson. Yes. Trevor McDonald.
Yes.
And Zach Dumont.
Yes.
Article 7 is recommended 11 to 0. Thank you very much. Article 8, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate from surplus up to $50,000 to be placed in the repair and maintenance of school facility expendable trust fund to support the elementary school playground renovation project, with this amount to come from the June 30, 2020 fund balance if available. No amount to be raised from taxation, majority vote required. The school board recommends this appropriation 5 to 0. The budget committee recommends this appropriation to be determined. I will accept the motion to accept Article 8 as written.
So moved.
Dan Smith makes the motion. Do I have a second? Jeff Rabb makes the second. Discussion?
I hate to ask them to come up again. Do we know what the total projected cost is for the playground?
The most recent estimate from Grant was $220,000 in total, and I don't know how much the PTA has raised so far, but it's not sufficient
discussion? Let's move it to a vote if I get the names right this time. Elizabeth McKinney,
Yes.
Christian Matthews,
Yes.
Rob Ortens,
Yes.
Jeff Rabb,
Yes.
Joe Lamantina,
Yes.
Mickey Burns is a yes. Dan Smith,
Yes?
Roger Caddy,
Yes.
Gary Swanson. Trevor McDonald,
Yes.
and Zach Dumont.
Yes.
Article 8 is recommended unanimously, 11-0. Article 9 reads, transact any business which may legally come from this meeting. There's no need for us to vote on that. Thank you very much. The warrant article review is complete. Moving on to our last couple of items on the agenda is just a review of upcoming meetings. February 1st is our town deliberative session, and it's going to be held at the Newmarket High School in the cafetorium at 9 a.m. I believe the school is going to go first, followed by the town. So folks in the Budget Committee know, I have requested that we notice a meeting, if necessary, for immediately following the deliberative session. That is so that if the amounts within either the town or school's budgets are changed, the language is changed, we can meet again and do this again, recommend or not recommend the changes as amended, if they are amended inside the deliberative session, and it just saves us from having to schedule another meeting in this building. So we'll gather up in a corner and do that. Just so folks know, March 10, 2020 is the election or voting day in Newmarket, held here at Town Hall at this point from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Zach is the motion and Robert is the second.
Oh, wait.
Okay, yes.
Where and how and when, we have to post the under 77, which is the budget, committee budget, and has to be done in the very near future. What's the best way to place those reports and have people sign them, so we can post it appropriately?
I think in previous years where we did not have that paperwork in front of us, it was held at the RSA office here in this building upstairs, and the Budget Committee members would make time within their schedule to come over and sign that paperwork and have it available for us.
So because I'm new, what is the best way to contact the board,
To let us know that it's
chair?
there. Let me know that the paperwork is available inside the office, the RSA office, and I will send out a notice to the rest of the committee.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn before us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.